In the 1920s, it seemed like pure fantasy. In the 1940s, it changed the course of history. Today, it's everywhere around us. This is the story of one discovery that revolutionized the global chemical industry. And it all began with ordinary potatoes in the basement of a Petersburg university. But to understand the scale of this discovery, we need to go back to 1914. The world was experiencing an automotive revolution, but there was a critical dependency. All natural rubber grew exclusively in tropical latitudes. British colonies controlled about 70% of global production. Russia annually spent a colossal sum, 15 million rubles in gold on rubber imports. To put this in perspective, a kilogram of rubber cost as much as a kilogram of silver. But the real problems began with World War I. Despite Russia and Britain being allies in the Entente, military actions fundamentally changed global trade. Sea routes became dangerous, trade routes were disrupted, and production was reoriented toward military needs. As a result, supplies of strategic materials, including rubber, sharply decreased. Imagine the scale of the problem. Automobiles, airplanes, artillery installations, even medical instruments, everything required rubber. And there were serious difficulties with its supply. It was precisely at this critical moment in history that a man entered the scene who would forever change the global chemical industry. 33-year-old Professor Sergei Vasilyevich Lebedev of St. Petersburg University, a graduate of the same university where Dmitry Mendeleev had studied, a student of the great Alexander Butlerov. According to colleagues' memoirs published in the journal Chemistry and Life, Lebedev declared at the Academic Council, "If nature creates rubber only in the tropics, we will create it in the laboratory using scientific methods." Colleagues met this statement with skepticism, and they had good reason. Since the 1860s, the world's best chemists, from German professors to English researchers, had tried to create synthetic rubber. The result was invariably the same: either a liquid substance unsuitable for practical use, or hard, brittle pieces good only for making soles. But Lebedev already had an important advantage. Back in 1910, he had been the first in the world to obtain synthetic rubber through polymerization of butadiene, obtaining its first grams. This was a fundamental breakthrough, proving the very possibility of such synthesis. It was precisely butadiene that he considered as the main monomer for future synthetic rubber. However, that early success was only a starting point. For industrial production, what was needed was not just rubber, but a material with specific high-performance characteristics and an efficient, accessible catalyst for its production. Lebedev continued working in the university's basement laboratory. Conditions were difficult even by the standards of those times, working with toxic substances, temperature fluctuations, high pressure. The laboratory was located in a semi-basement room without proper ventilation. Archival data confirms the professor's assistants constantly changed. They couldn't endure it. Lebedev himself, according to medical records, developed a stomach ulcer but didn't stop. Day after day, year after year, he tried to solve the main task: find that very catalyst that would allow converting butadiene into a chain of strong, elastic molecules with the right structure and properties into full-fledged synthetic rubber suitable for mass production in harsh operating conditions. 8 years of research, more than 3,000 documented attempts, and then Lebedev takes the next important step. He abandons imported raw materials. Instead of expensive foreign hydrocarbons, he decides to use what could be obtained in unlimited quantities from local resources: ethyl alcohol derived from potatoes and grain. At that time in the scientific community, the idea of synthesizing rubber from alcohol seemed unconventional, too unusual a path, but it was precisely in this simplicity that Lebedev saw an elegant solution. Thus was born the remarkably logical concept of obtaining the monomer, butadiene, from accessible raw materials. According to calculations, producing 1 kilogram of rubber required about 25 kilograms of potatoes. Local raw materials versus tropical plantations, and most importantly, no dependence on imports. But even with the brilliant idea of accessible raw materials, the key problem remained: finding an efficient catalyst that would transform butadiene into strong and elastic rubber. Without it, this entire scheme remained just theory. The revolution of 1917, the Civil War, devastation, it would seem the country had no time for chemical experiments. But in 1926, the Supreme Council of National Economy announced an all-union competition with a prize fund of 100,000 rubles, equivalent in purchasing power to about 5 million modern dollars. The technical specification was extremely concrete. Establish industrial production of synthetic rubber from domestic raw materials. December 30th, 1927, in the basement laboratory of Leningrad University, an event occurred that would enter the history of world chemistry. After thousands of experiments and analysis of hundreds of different substances, Lebedev found the ideal catalyst. It was metallic sodium dissolved in liquid ammonia at a temperature of minus 40 degrees Celsius. The solution acquired a characteristic bright blue color, which laboratory workers dubbed the blue solution. This blue solution worked true miracles. Butadiene molecules arranged themselves into long, elastic chains with the correct spatial structure, forming a polymer with unique properties. Real rubber was obtained, strong, elastic, resistant to frost down to minus 40 degrees. According to archival documents, on July 7, 1932, the Yaroslavl synthetic rubber plant produced the first industrial batch of synthetic rubber using Lebedev's method. Workers, with their characteristic humor, called the enterprise a distillery in reverse. Alcohol went in and rubber came out. News of the breakthrough attracted the attention of the global scientific community. The German chemical concern IG Farben immediately proposed technical cooperation. In 1931, a German delegation arrived in Leningrad, headed by Dr. Konrad Weiss, one of Europe's leading specialists in synthetic polymers. The official purpose of the visit was to study possibilities for scientific cooperation. Soviet authorities, demonstrating openness, organized factory tours for the German specialists and provided rubber samples for laboratory analysis. But the main secret, the exact technology for preparing the sodium ammonia catalyst, remained classified. According to declassified documents, the German side offered significant sums for the complete technology, and the secret really lay in the finest technological details. Ordinary metallic sodium, crushed or melted, didn't produce the needed effect. What was required was precisely a colloidal solution in liquid ammonia with a specific concentration and at strictly controlled temperature. By the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, production statistics looked as follows. The USSR produced 50,000 tons of synthetic rubber per year. Germany, about 70,000 tons of its Buna rubber using alternative technology. But the decisive factor was the differences in quality. Comparative tests showed a critical difference. Rubber elements of German equipment lost elasticity already at temperatures of minus 20 degrees Celsius, while rubber made by Lebedev's method maintained functionality down to minus 40 degrees. This difference became an important technical factor during the war. In autumn, German equipment massively experienced difficulties in muddy conditions. During the harsh winter, it suffered from numerous technical failures. Rubber tracks of tank rollers, tires of automobiles and aircraft cracked in the frost. Seals lost their tightness. Soviet military equipment, T-34 tanks, Katyusha rocket launchers, Il-2 attack aircraft, Gaz AA trucks, used rubber made from Lebedev's method rubber, which ensured reliable operation in harsh climatic conditions. Sergei Vasilyevich Lebedev died of a heart attack in 1934, 7 years before the war. But his scientific development became one of the factors that determined technical superiority in critical conditions. After 1945, the picture of global production changed dramatically. The United States during the war years deployed a large-scale synthetic rubber production program, increasing output to 800,000 tons per year, 16 times more than the Soviet level. However, Lebedev's technology retained unique competitive advantages in the areas of frost resistance and chemical resistance. The USSR continued using the sodium ammonia method for producing special grades of rubber until the 1960s. And the principle of polymerization using colloidal sodium catalyst still finds application in modern chemical industry for obtaining especially strong and heat-resistant polymers. Lebedev's name doesn't often appear in textbooks, but his scientific achievement changed global industry and saved millions of lives. If you believe such stories should be heard, support this video with a like and subscription. In the next episode, a forgotten audio technology that could have preceded the entire digital world. Sound on crystal, Be sure to subscribe to our Telegram channel so you don't miss the video. Good luck and all the best.